Lila, welcome to KZSU Stanford. My name is Carla, and I am the presenter of Global Ginga. We are a world music radio show, also a podcast, no walls, no borders. And I'm so excited to have you on the show because I'm such a huge fan. And you are such a huge name in the world music circuit. So,
Thank
welcome,
you.
bem-vinda ao Global Ginga.
Muito obrigada. Thank you so much, Carla.
I'm so excited
Bom
that you're coming in the
dia.
Bay Area. I've been trying to catch you, and I wasn't able to before, but I'm coming to the show on Saturday.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. It's been,
So,
we've been on tour for almost a month now, and it's been wonderful to come back and, see different cities. Each city has their different approach about coming back. And you can see people, though, are humbled by all that we have been through in this pandemic. And I love to see that communities are. I feel like we're tighter, we're closer together. We realize how dependent we are on each other, and so it's a learning experience, and it's wonderful to convey emotion through music with our audiences.
which you do so well. So, what can we expect from the performance in Berkeley?
Well, we have in part some of the songs that we kind of got stopped because of pandemic, and it was mainly a dance album. It was an album about uh you know cooking, about cooking with chile, with spice, because chile is such an important element in our food in Mexico, but it's also always has that double meaning. The way that Latin Americans, the way we have fun with food, with music, with a double entendre. And we also have some new songs that we have been working on. Um, we, since we have been at home with the family, a lot of the messages are about staying close, loving the family, learning some lessons during this time, and appreciating Mother Nature. I think that is one of the more profound messages that I believe the Mother Earth is trying to send us.
Yeah, that's true. Um, you have such a diverse repertoire. It's just a lot of fun listening to you, and I like to say if you don't have Mexican in you, Lila Downs is gonna bring out the Mexican. There's a Mexican in all of us, and Lila Downs is gonna bring it out. So how do you get the inspiration for all these lyrics?
Well, I think identity has been quite an issue for me because I rejected my indigenous side when I was an adolescent, in part because I felt rejection from North American society. I come from Minnesota, where people are quite contained and don't talk about identity. But also I grew up in southern Mexico, in Oaxaca, surrounded by the mountains, and also in mestizo communities, or more national mixed, race community. We are also in denial about our indigenous roots and in our Afro Mexican roots. And so this is something that has been important to me to study and explore through music, and also through the documentation that we have, and through oral stories, through the knowledge of curanderas, the knowledge of women who are cooking with the elements that come from thousands of years ago that we find in archaeological sites. And so I try to incorporate all this knowledge into my lyrics, and try to make it fun as well, because a big part of my approach is educational, but I also want people to be, taken by the music and then open their hearts to history.
And why do you think that your lyrics are so successful? I know it's a little bit hard to get people to listen to lyrics that are about causes in general. But you have been pretty successful in that. What do you attribute your success to?
Well, I mean, I think there's so many different kinds of songs that I've written. I've written some songs that are more explicit in their intent to create a message that is important to listen to. I wrote a song about a woman who was assassinated in Mexico, who was a civil rights or a lawyer who was writing for who was fighting for human rights in the state of Guerrero, and that's a song that was, you know, explicitly about a particular cause and a situation. But I also composed some songs that are more festive, about the food. For example, this song about chile is really about it's done in a genre that we call chilena, which is a certain kind of a huapango, a very up huapango in 6 time in the time signature that isn't that familiar to people in North America, but it's quite common in all of Latin America, and it's very festive, and it talks about the enjoyment of having spice in your food. And so there may be melancholy and reflective moments in our concert, and serious moments about tragedy and about loss. But there are also moments of happiness and fiesta and just as it is in Brazil, to have a moment of happiness without forgetting the other side of our reality in Latin America, which can be, painful, but also has to do with our history, the same way that, the blues can be in the US as well.
Yeah. Is it true that from what I read that you were born in Mexico, but then you migrated to Minnesota at the age of 14?
No, I was born in Mexico, but then as a baby I was brought to Minnesota, and I grew up half of my life. We would go 1 year to Mexico and come back for a year in Minnesota. My father was a university professor, therefore we had to come back every year. It wasn't like so the back and forth is what confuses people, because I have been very privileged, in order to come and go, and that has given me a different perspective as well.
Yeah, I kind of resonate that story because I feel like I'm in a similar situation. I came to the United States very young at the age of 14, but somehow, and people think it's very unusual, I have retained, embraced, and almost celebrated my Brazilian culture, and hence the reason why I do this show. I play a lot of Brazilian music as well, and I try to bring music from around the world because it's important that there's great music in different languages that doesn't get played in mainstream America. So I think it's important to elevate. But
Yeah.
I see your story similar to mine because you've embraced your Mexicantality. How do you say it? Your Mexicanness.
Yeah.
And but you had both cultures. So what do you think took you back more to Mexico?
I think that I rejected being Mexican and being indigenous, in part because I was surrounded by a lot of rejection towards this root, and in the U.S. in one way, and in Mexico in another. And so when I decided to study about our history, and I studied anthropology as well as voice, I discovered so many things about repression and containment and colonialism in our brains and in our inherited traits, I would say. So this is something that I analyze and that I constantly have been struggling with as an artist, it has been very difficult because, folk isn't respected in a sense. It kind of it's incorporated into all kinds of pop music, but I think it isn't. It's kind of seen like the people's music that's always there and really kind of doesn't matter. And so I think that's been my concern, is kind of, okay, yeah, it's our grandparents' songs sometimes, but it is also uh, just as valid because it can be very political. It can be very modern. It can be very profound as well. And so that's where I'm coming from, I think, is kind of defending the roots of the music that has been very important to me because of the messages that I have inherited on the one hand, and also played with in order to convey other messages that are more
Yeah.
pertinent to my generation.
I remember in the movie Selena, I'll never forget because there's a point in the movie where she says, I'm not Mexican enough in Mexico, and I am not American enough in America.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can relate to that because I'll go to Brazil and people say, oh, you have an accent, you speak funny. And then in the United States, it's the same thing. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be a language that I don't have an accent.
Yeah.
But do you relate to that, or do you think you're pretty well accepted as Mexican in Mexico?
I think I am now, after a lot of work. After a lot of work. Yeah. But
Selena
I
didn't have the time to do the work, huh?
no, well, I think a lot of people assume things about us as if they really knew our reality. And I think it's up to us to introduce people to our reality, which is quite different. Our vision is quite different, and so it's about teaching people, right? And I think the amazing thing about art is that you can really, teach people about themselves without them really consciously knowing. That's what's so amazing about art. And so we're fortunate in that sense. And but yeah, it's difficult to grow up like a half breed or a half and half. And in my case, with my mother's indigenous culture as well, it's another side of myself. The fortunate thing is that the actual indigenous community, I think, maybe there has been some rejection, but I think in general they have been very warm and proud of the work that I have done. And so I feel like, you need to look at the positive side of all of what we have worked on, and I'm sure in your case it's the same. And there's always going to be criticism in life. That's the way life is.
Yeah. And just about some of the news happening now, because I know you're such a voice for underrepresented people, women, indigenous people. What are your thoughts on what we're hearing today about the Supreme Court overturning the abortion rights?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's very sad to see the whole movement of women's freedom and um, equality changing once again. But I am an anthropologist, so I understand the way that social movements go, and sometimes, the pendulum swings to the right. And I think if we don't come together as a community and protect our rights to freedom, it's really up to us. I think that we must stand strong for the things that we need to make that freedom apparent. But if we are not united on that level, it's not going to happen. So I think we need to. It's like it is in Mexico. People have been struggling with the issue of violence towards women for the years that I have had a musical career, and it's always a question that people ask me. And fortunately, I think there's more pressure today, but it still hasn't caused changes within the government. So, it has to be a movement, because even the specialists can't make changes if the whole of society doesn't make that decision as a movement.
Yeah. Well, we'll be looking to you to lead us, Lila.
Oh my goodness. I'm only one little ant with my little.
Oh, you have a lot of power in you. Yeah, I kind of see you as a storyteller. You're a storyteller through music, through dance, through songwriting, all of that, movie making. You have so many aspects of your artistic talent, and I'm really excited. And I just want to thank you again for being part of Global Ginga on KZSU Stanford.
Thank
We're looking forward to
you.
seeing you on Sunday.
We're
I think in the
Yeah,
beginning you said something about playing with the word chile. Is there another meaning?
connotation. Yes.
What's the other one so that we know
Well,
when we're singing and
it's
dancing with you?
it's pretty raw, and it's about Chile is very much referred to the man's intimate part.
Ah,
So playing around with it is a funny thing.
okay. I guess I'll be able to enjoy the show more then.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll see you there at Berkeley. It'll be wonderful to be back, because Berkeley is one of those places that I remember our first audiences, 20 people in the audience, and
Really?
it was amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you sing a little bit of any of the songs from Al
Claro,
Chile?
claro. Yo tengo, yo tengo ganas de comer taco de chile con cerveza, con su sal y su cebolla asadito en el carbón.
Well, we better eat before the show, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of eating, any recommendations for places to hang out before your show on Saturday?
Oh my goodness, I wouldn't be the one to ask for
You don't know
that.
the area too much.
Yeah, not anymore. I haven't been in California living there for quite a while, but
Okay.
I'm sure there's a whole new group of restaurants and places to have takeout from, right? Because that's the great thing that has developed during pandemic, is the very positive, wonderful thing that has happened.
Definitely. All right. Any last thoughts, comments that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Well, I hope to see everybody there, and I promise we will have a wonderful evening of storytelling and singing and performing, y cantar algunas rancheras preferidas del público. We're going to sing some songs that we need to sing together, because that's how music is.
Es el Día de las Madres también, así que creo que mucha gente va a traer a sus mamás.
Así es. Feliz Día de las Mamis, que las
Sí.
mamis somos muy importantes en la vida. And so, yeah, it'll be wonderful to be able to sing to the mummies.
Sim. Muito obrigada. Adoro você, adoro o seu trabalho e a gente se vê, se escuta no seu show em Berkeley.
See you in Berkeley.
Ok. Um beijo, até a próxima.
Beijo, abraço.
Tchau.
Ciao.